Welcome to RankLens. Today, we count down the top 10 most dramatic food origin stories ever told. Food legends are everywhere. Every iconic dish has a story, but which ones changed history? Which origin tales are so contested, so cinematic, so surprising that they've shaped how millions eat today? We're counting down 10 dishes whose dramatic backstories became as famous as the food itself. From humble accidents to heated national feuds, from royal legends to working-class improvisation, each entry proved that sometimes the tale behind the meal matters more than the meal itself. Let's begin. At number 10, Nachos. We start with the most recent origin story on our list, proof that great dishes can be born from pure improvisation. It's 1943 in Piedras Negras, Mexico. U.S. military wives arrive at a local restaurant after hours when the kitchen is closed. The maitre d' on duty was Ignacio Anaya. Everyone called him Nacho. With the kitchen shut down and ingredients limited, he improvised. He grabbed sliced cheese and pickled jalapenos, arranged them on tortilla chips, and melted them under heat. The customers loved it. When word spread, locals started asking for Nachos Special, and that nickname stuck so hard it became the dish's permanent name. The man's own nickname became immortal food. From a late-night shortcut in a closed kitchen came one of the world's most beloved finger foods. It's a reminder that sometimes the best food isn't planned. It's born from necessity and a clever mind. At number 9, Pizza Margherita. This is where origin stories get complicated, because Pizza Margherita has become so iconic that its own history is now in dispute. The legend is elegant. In 1889, Queen Margherita of Savoy visited Naples and sampled pizza from chef Raffaele Esposito. She was so enchanted that she allegedly sent back a thank-you letter praising the dish. And the dish itself was perfect propaganda: red tomato, white mozzarella, green basil arranged to mirror the Italian flag. For generations, that story was gospel. The palace letter was proof. Except now, historians are skeptical. The 1889 letter, once the foundation of the legend, is now widely doubted according to modern historians. We don't know if it was ever real. But whether the queen tasted it or not, the dish itself became a symbol of Italian identity. A story so powerful it rewrote pizza history. At number 8, Pavlova. Here's a dessert so contested that two entire nations are still feuding over it. The meringue dessert was created in the 1920s to honor Russian ballerina Anna Pavlova during her tour of the South Pacific. Both Australia and New Zealand claim they invented it first. The dessert itself is exquisite. A crisp meringue base topped with cream and berries, designed so the meringue's wispy peaks would evoke the delicate layers of her tutu. It's a gorgeous gesture. But it became a problem. Which country's bakers came up with the idea first? To this day, neither side has backed down. In fact, the feud is so ingrained that mentioning it in either country can spark genuine debate. A dessert inspired by Grace became the symbol of a territorial standoff that's lasted a century. At number 7, the sandwich. This is where a legend took over history. The story we all know is almost too perfect. The 4th Earl of Sandwich, John Montagu, was a compulsive gambler. Around 1762, he was so consumed by a card game that he refused to leave the table to eat. So he ordered his servants to bring him meat between slices of bread, food he could eat with one hand while keeping the other on his cards. The habit stuck. Guests asked the waiters for a sandwich, naming it after the Earl. Simple, elegant, and almost certainly false. According to historians, similar bread-wrapped meals existed for centuries before John Montagu was even born. The Earl may have popularized it, or the story may be pure fiction. But it doesn't matter anymore. The narrative was so catchy that it permanently attached his name to the dish. Sometimes the legend matters more than the truth. At number 6, General Tso's chicken. a dish named after a man who never tasted it, and a story so murky that a whole documentary was made to chase down the truth. General So was a Qing dynasty warlord, a military strategist who lived centuries ago. But in the 1950s, a chef named Peng Chung Kui created a stir-fried chicken dish in Taiwan and named it after the general as a tribute. The original recipe was savory, balanced, refined, meant for a banquet table. Then, it crossed the Pacific. When the dish arrived in New York, American chefs sweetened it a lot. The result, sticky, saucy, candy-like, bears almost no resemblance to Peng's original creation. Today, the true story is so contested that it demanded its own documentary. A dish named for a general who never ate it, transformed beyond recognition, its origins still disputed. That's a legend worthy of the countdown. At number 5, Champagne, specifically, the legend of Dom Pérignon. Few origin myths are as romantic as this one. In around 1690, a Benedictine monk named Dom Pérignon was working at Haute-Villers Abbey. According to legend, one day he tasted the wine and was so moved that he cried out, "Come quickly, I am tasting the stars." It's become the definitive image of Champagne's birth, a visionary monk discovering the magic of bubbles, enlightened and ecstatic. Except that story gets it exactly backward. Dom Pérignon was not celebrating the bubbles. He was actually horrified by them. The truth is, unwanted carbonation was ruining his wine, a problem he spent his life trying to solve, not celebrate. The most famous moment in Champagne history is a myth that reverses the real story. The stars he tasted were actually a disaster he was trying to prevent. At number 4, Caesar salad, a dish born not from tradition or refinement, but from the chaos of prohibition. It's July 4, 1924. Cesare Cardini, an Italian immigrant, owned a restaurant in Tijuana, Mexico, just south of the US border. Prohibition was the law in America, so his restaurant was packed with Americans fleeing the ban, desperate for a meal and a drink outside the reach of federal agents. On that busy holiday, the kitchen ran low on supplies. Cardini did what resourceful cooks do: he improvised. He tossed lettuce, croutons, cheese, and created a sauce with Worcestershire, lemon, and egg. He performed it tableside for his guests, building the salad right in front of them. No anchovies, just the savory depth of Worcestershire. The dish caught on instantly. And unlike most salads, it came with built-in theater, a chef working live, transforming simple greens into something iconic. At number 3, fortune cookie. A dish with a false identity and an origin story so contested, it ended up in court. Fortune cookies are assumed to be Chinese, a staple of Chinese-American restaurants for generations. Except they're not Chinese at all. Historians trace them back to Japan, to a cracker called Sujura Senbei. When Japanese immigrants arrived in California in the early 1900s, they started making these crackers. Then, Japanese-American bakers realized, slip a fortune inside, and you have something novel and fun. The innovation caught on, and the credit got murky. San Francisco bakers claimed they invented the fortune cookie concept. Los Angeles bakers disagreed. The dispute got so heated, a San Francisco court had to rule on it. A dessert born in Japan, perfected in California, falsely credited to China, and finally litigated by 2 American cities. At number 2, the croissant, a pastry wrapped in one of history's most cinematic and most false origin myths. The legend is irresistible. During the failed Ottoman siege of Vienna in 1683, bakers discovered a tunnel being dug beneath the city. To celebrate victory, they created a pastry shaped like a crescent moon, mocking the Ottoman flag. Except historians have spent decades dismantling this story. The timeline doesn't work. The legend emerged centuries after 1683. Vienna already had a pastry called Kipferl, a crescent shape that predates the siege by decades. When Marie Antoinette came to France from Austria, she's credited with bringing the croissant with her. The siege legend is almost certainly false. But it's so dramatic, so memorable, that it eclipsed the actual history. The croissant's true origin is mundane, but the myth is immortal. At number 1, Chicken Tikka Masala. The most contested origin story in food history, so disputed that a government literally had to take a stand. The story, a Glasgow chef, was serving chicken tikka to a customer in the 1970s. The customer sent it back complaining it was too dry. The chef improvised. He added tomato sauce and cream, creating a smooth, rich gravy. Chicken tikka masala was born. But who invented it? A British chef or an Indian one? Was it Indian tradition modified for British tastes or British fusion? The argument became geopolitically loaded. It touched on identity, colonialism, and culinary ownership. In 2001, the British Foreign Secretary stepped in and declared it the true national dish of Britain, a government verdict on a dish whose origins nobody agreed on. A food so legendary that governments felt obliged to settle the debate by fiat. These 10 dishes reveal something profound about how we tell stories. None of these legends is simple. They're contested, inverted, mislabeled, or partially false. And yet they persist because the stories matter more than the facts. Chicken tikka masala was so legendary that Parliament had to declare it official. The croissant's true history is mundane, but the siege myth is immortal. Dom Perignon's famous quote means, "the opposite of what we think." These aren't just dishes. They're narratives that shaped cultures, sparked feuds between nations, and became so powerful that they rewrote themselves. Food isn't just sustenance, it's identity, it's mythology. And sometimes, the best stories win over the truth. And that's the top 10 most dramatic food origin stories ever told. If you enjoyed this countdown, subscribe to RankLens for more.